Welcome to Toffee Tuesday from the Blue Room. It's a bit of a miserable June day, but you've got me, Dave, and Rodger as little rays of sunshine to brighten up a gloomy Tuesday. Before we kick off, thanks to Matt and Paddy for doing the old switcheroo this week and doing the byline on Monday. If you're listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, please do subscribe, like, and leave a comment. And if you're listening on the podcast, please do leave us a rating and a comment if you want. And also, if you've not joined the Patreon yet, go and have a look at that if you can. Join it. Right, lads, let's get into this. So, a couple of things about signings today, new leadership appointments, and we'll have a little look ahead before we finish to next season and see where we're going to finish, see how you think we're going to do. But we will kick off with the news that it looks like Everton are going to sign Kenny Day from Fulham. Dave did a really good bit. Fulham fan Sammy James yesterday. If no one's listened to that, go and listen to it. It's really good. He was very gushing about him, wasn't he, Dave? He's gutted to lose Kenny Tete, and I think, you know, the profile of player, right back position we've needed to cover for years. 29, good age, free transfer, perfect for us. Bit of an injury worry. His injury record isn't great. But just want to talk us through that, Dave, and what you think of the potential transfer and what Sammy thought of it as well, because I was amazed at how much he actually loved this player.
Yeah, he had quite an emotional attachment, didn't he? Talking about how gutted they are that he's leaving. It's a strange thing that's happened there. Because if you listen to it, he speaks about how it eventually came to the point that he was leaving after 5 years, and he was an essential player that all of their fans loved. And then somehow he's leaving on a free transfer. Obviously, our benefit now. But he was talking about how he's that kind of player who probably gets fans off their seats, not in regard of that sort of cheesy way, but in terms of always wanting to throw a tackle in, will throw himself into everything, 100%. Every sort of stereotype you would regard in a positive way to Everton. He said that about him. The thing I questioned him about it, and forgive me because this talking about stereotypes, I said, well, he's a Dutch player, and there generally seems to be a little bit of a, I don't know, for want of a better term, it's a bit different, isn't it? We think back to Drenthe, for instance, when he was with us.
I'm thinking that Belgian players, there's always a little bit of something else with them, isn't there?
Yeah, Morales always seemed to be a little bit on the edge at times as well. And I said, was there anything like that? He said, no, absolutely not. He said he sort of really embraces where he is. He's the kind of player that sort of loves to be in and around fans. He's not one of those who just wants to get off home and then come to work and all that sort of thing. He properly engages with everything that goes on at the club. And I mean, I was looking at, and obviously it's the natural time we all look at YouTube videos, but he's a big, powerful fullback. And it's in a position that we've spoke many times, lads, haven't we, about needing that position filling at right back, given that, well, we've only got either old men or not at all. And like you say, coming at the age of 29, it's a perfect time for him to come at this stage of his career. He was talking about how coming to a club like Everton is not it's not too different from what Fulham are at the moment. And I think we included him, Rodger, didn't we, in Fulham in sort of one of those sort of pool of clubs that are in and around that sort of mid-table list of teams that can finish in and around. So we've sort of nicked one from them because Fulham are a side that are on the up, I think. And we had a bit of a chat about Marco Silva as well and how he utilised him and the way he's got them playing. But he looks like a tailor-made fit for us to come in. And it was interesting. I had a couple of chats on people who've listened to it, saying that it'll be really interesting what Moyes, how he operates with having him as a right back. Is he going to automatically start? And you think, well, that's pretty obvious. You don't sign a new right back, 29 years old at his peak, like you say. But others have said to me, well, you've got Jake O'Brien there. Does that mean he's dropped because O'Brien's not going to get in instead of Tarkowski? So I think that's a really interesting debate and a really interesting dilemma that Moyes is going to have.
Yeah, it's a really good point about O'Brien, isn't it? I just thought maybe we might sort of forego the right back spot this season and just keep Jake O'Brien there. But I think bringing Kenny Tete in, I imagine he would start. Is there any issue about his injury record? He missed 19 games last season, and he seems to have every season he misses a few games with knocks, groin injuries, thigh problems. missed some with coronavirus. Hopefully that'll never happen again. But yeah, do you think he's going to be a starter, or do you think he'll stick with O'Brien? What do you think of the potential signing overall?
I think it's positive because it's not Kyle Walker. That's my first positive.
Good shout. Yeah.
Kyle Walker, in my opinion, is too old and has become incredibly poor. Been a very good player, but his form has fallen off a cliff. So I'm delighted that seems to have been knocked on the head. Tete ticks a lot of boxes. I suppose there's two reservations. One is obviously the injury record. Who knows about that? Obviously, he'll need to have a full medical. And then secondly, why are Fulham letting him go? That's always, when you take someone from another club at this kind of age, we're not signing him as a player on the up, as a young player. That's all okay. He's got good Premier League experience. I think it's absolutely fine. My other reservation is I really hope that we don't go to 5 at the back, because firstly, Everton can't play 5 at the back. We've never been able to play 5 at the back. Doesn't work. And we need positions at the top of the pitch. So I would not want us to be starting the season with Tete at right back, because he's not an overlapping wing back, is he? He's more of a traditional fullback, as I understand his role. And I don't think Mykolenko can overlap a little more and has got a bit better at crossing and the like. But I don't want us then to be moving Jake O'Brien into a back 3, and then because then that's 5 slots or 6 taken up, and we need those variations at the top end of the pitch, as we've spoken about.
Yeah, I think a team that's like sort of so short on goals like Everton, you can't take one out of the attacking position to put it in an already really tight defence. I think on the fact that Fulham have let him go, I think they did offer him new term. I think Everton have just bettered it. I think Everton have just offered him a better package by the sounds of it.
I think a long package. Maybe Fulham only offered him a couple of years, and
it could be something of that. So I don't think Fulham particularly wants to let him go. And Dave, correct me if I'm wrong. I think although he is a very defensive fullback, didn't Sammy say he's got a good cross on him? He can hit a good deep cross into the box.
Yeah, absolutely. And how many times we've spoken about that missing at right back? It seems to be a curse for right backs that we've had over the years, because even when we had Ashley Young, probably one of his main attributes over the years was being able to whip a cross in or take a free kick. And you never seen that, really, did you? But then again, I'm pretty sure Ashley Young behind closed doors would say, well, I never got enough opportunities to cross a ball in, given how I used to have to play, given how, we're having a third of the ball compared to the opposition. But yeah, he's quick, he's mobile, and he's able to whip a ball in. Again, we can only sort of stick to YouTube videos if you don't have the time to go and watch every single Fulham game that he's played in. But yeah, he can hit a ball in. He can shoot as well. He's got an absolute whip of a right foot. And it's interesting, isn't it, finally getting a player that you're excited about who is relatively risk free. Because we're talking a lot about how much money we've got to spend and how we can sort of delve into different transfer markets, whether they're from the Championship or abroad or Premier League players, and the amount we'll have to spend. I think it's a bit of genius to go with somebody like this. And the way in which I've seen him conduct himself, it feels to me that he likes linking up with whoever's in front of him as well, which would be really interesting, because how we've spoken about that 3 that we might play behind Beto or whatever striker that hopefully we go and get. He's someone who can entwine with whoever's there on that right hand side as well. So I think there's a versatility in the specific area of right back, if that makes any sort of sense, because he's not somebody you're going to throw across your back for, or like Rodger rightly says there, I don't want us to play a 5. He just looks like he's somebody who will give you a 7, 8 out of 10, and it's exactly what we need, because that side of the pitch, we've had issues there for a long time, since Seamus was gone from his prime. And Ashley Young, I think, he's a bit Marmite like when the way people refer to his career with us. He was all right in the end, but let's face it, the main amount of time that he was with us, he was a player that many people criticise. So I'd like to think we've quietly ticked the box with getting him in, and look further afield at areas that we need to go and do. But in terms of it being a bit of a drama for us transfer wise, it's a good start, isn't it, to the series you look like you're potentially going to have with players.
Yeah, I think, we're not out of June yet. There's another week left of this month, and then I think everyone sort of accepted that things will probably kick on from July when all the contract stuff sorted out. But Rodger, I think to get Alcaraz in, to hopefully get Tete sorted, that's 2 positions boxed off. Another one potentially looking at is Zinchenko that we've been linked with today. I think for 14 million now. He's a left back / left-sided midfielder. Not a player I've ever liked, to be honest. He's always done me head in, but he is 28. 14 million is probably a decent price for a player of his profile. What do you make of that?
No, it's not for me. No, I don't. I'm like you. I don't know what it is. I think he's one of those players that Arteta was mistaken in taking from City alongside Gabriel Jesus. I'm not sure what he is. And I know he's a left back, and I know he can cross the ball, and I know he can play on inverted fullback and all of these things. But 14 million, on a position that we already have covered, I think in Mykolenko. I don't really understand why we need to swap left backs. I would say left back is perhaps priority number 8 or 9 in our team at the moment, and so doesn't. And he's not a player that excites me. And he's not young. He's not going to be an understudy. He's not going to, learn his craft and then, on a 5-year deal or whatever, come into his prime with us, or we're going to be able to on-sell at a profit. So I don't understand that. He's also linked to Fulham, which also I don't understand, because they've got Anthony Robinson, who I wouldn't mind bringing back to Everton, to be honest with you, because he is an overlapping fullback that would give us a different dimension. But no, Zinchenko, not for me. But it doesn't seem to me that's a priority position.
Yeah, I think in terms of left back, like you say, it's well down the pecking order. I think we do need cover there. We do need someone to sort of push Mykolenko a bit more, maybe. Dave, what would you make of Zinchenko?
I really like him as a player. I think he's somebody else. I mean, when he was left City, it'd be hard to find a sort of somebody or somewhere that would take him on and have him in a particular position. And it's interesting the way Arteta's utilised him. It hasn't always been at left back. Sometimes you see him in really particular different places on the pitch. When I'm thinking, hang on, he's come on as a left back, he's come in as a left wing back. I've seen him sort of drop into midfield at times. But I think it's sort of that contradictive terminology that you start using when you need backup, you need cover. Well, if you need that, then you need a player that's efficient enough to be able to do that. But you're not able to go and get one who's just going to sit on the bench and wait for that. And I think Zinchenko is pretty much in that category. You're not going to go and get him. And then, well, I wouldn't have expected that Mykolenko's happy to sit on the bench, or that Mykolenko is much less of a left back than Zinchenko. So I think it's a different balancing act to go and get somebody who you can see as an efficient player who can come in if and when he's required, or maybe plays 10 to 15 games a season, because you've got your left back that you have mainly fit for the most of it. You've got to try and maintain the standard while also trying to persuade someone to come when they're not guaranteed to have their place. So if we could get him, but I think the problem with it is the price you're paying. I mean, how much would you go and pay for a player like that? I mean, he's going to want big wages as well.
Yeah, I think the wages could be a bit of a sticking point as well. He played 15 games last season, missed 13 through injury. So, he was a big part player for us. Maybe that's why they're looking to get rid, because he's not reliable enough. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting link. Like you say, Rodger, though, is it particularly in a position that we need? I'm not too sure. In other news, the people bringing in the players, it's been all changed in the back room. Or it's about to be anyway. So we've had new leadership appointments, which the club heralded in a very LinkedIn-style statement last week. Angus Kinnear has said the club's moved away from a director of football model in favour of a football leadership team. So we've got Nick Cox coming in as technical director, James Smith as director of scouting and recruitment, Chris Howarth to direct the club's football strategy and analytics operations, and Nick Hammond to lead the club player trading activity, which sounds like he was great with panini stickers as a kid. And they'll both work. This is what I found interesting. They'll both work with Moyes and Sorensen across the men's and women's team. So it's sort of saying that the whole sort of club structure there is going to be the men and women all going to be focused around the same football leadership team. Rodger, we'll come to you on this. What are your thoughts on this? We've also got James Smith to join the club in September. He's coming from his position as Director of Scouting and Recruitment at the City Football Group. Again, which sounds a relatively exciting appointment. And I think the fact that we're taking people from City, United, Leeds, Newcastle, all looks good to me, although I don't really know too much about what they'll do. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, difficult to know, really. The proof of the pudding will be in the eating, won't it? There is a LinkedIn word salad all over the place. And that just makes me, depending on my mood, it either makes me angry or it just makes me laugh. There's so much bullshit around this. What I find interesting is that James Smith, obviously, worked with Moyes for 10 years at Everton, and I think went with him to Man United, must have done, and then went from there to Man City. He's not joining until September, which is a bit of a shame for a director of scouting and recruitment to be joining once the window's closed. But I suppose gardening leave, I mean, it's a bit frustrating, but it is what it is, and he's here for the long term, I'm sure. We don't have a start date for Nick Cox either. I do get the impression that his role at Man United has been sort of bigged up a little bit. Is he the director of their academy, or is he an academy director? There's a bit of nuance around that. So, and again, his start date, I don't expect that to be until September. He's going to be in charge of Finch Farm, and I think it's a good. All these appointments are good in principle. Let me say that they are good in principle. I think they make a lot of sense, and particularly our use of data, which we have been, Luddite with throughout. The other clubs that get all the plaudits, the Brightons, the Brentfords, the others, they use data a lot. Liverpool use data a lot, and it is the modern game to use that in a global capacity to improve the quality of your research, the quality of your scouting, and to vet, do your due diligence on the players. So in principle, I'm in favour of the structure that's been put in place. The individuals, I don't really know. I can't really comment on. I think the fact that TFG have bought Chris Howarth's company, which is called Inside Sport, I believe. That's also good, because hopefully that now means it's proprietary. The data is going to be used for us. He's worked with a number of other clubs. The fact that Everton will be at the vanguard of data optimization, I mean, that is the prime piece of bullshit, because we have been, we've been in the cellar of data optimization. We've been kicking and screaming into the 21st century. So to suggest we can go from the back of the queue to the vanguard is a little bit over the top. Hammond has worked at a lot of places. He had a sort of stop-start career as a player. He's been director of football at Reading. He's had a technical role at West Brom, and he's head of football operations at Celtic. So he's done a lot of good stuff. He's worked with Kinnear before. So, I mean, I think it's positive. It sounds to me to be positive. And disappointing, slightly frustrating that two of them aren't starting until September. But yeah, we've made a big hoo-ha about it, like we tend to do. We tend to pat ourselves on the back about these things. Okay, but I'll judge them by what happens, by where we are in 12, 18 months' time, and how the academy's going. That's really critical, I think, the academy and how that works, and the pathways that we can offer players, and our ability to get the best talent in 11, 12, 13-year-olds and develop them from there. So it's got to be positive, guys. It's a step into the modern era, and let's hope that these are. I mean, I think it's too early to say they're all best in class, and isn't it marvellous? And aren't we now at the top of the queue? We aren't. This is a step in the right direction, and let's hope it leads to many more positive outcomes.
Yeah, I suppose like any team or any part of any team, we've got to work together. We'll see if that pans out. Like you say, though, Moyes having worked with James Smith, that's a good start. These fellas have been around a long time doing this job. It sounds so. It all sounds good to me, and I think on the academy, a lot is made of sort of the state of our academy. I think you find players who come through an academy and go onto the first team are quite few and far between, so that doesn't happen often. I think it's the paucity of players that have come through and sort of we've sold on and they've gone on to make decent careers. There's been a few, but nowhere near. It feels like nowhere near the volumes as in the past. We used to have a good production line of players who'd have a good, solid football league career. That seems to have dried up, and it doesn't seem to be much below the first team. Dave went through this on Mailbag, weirdly, on Friday. And I think Warren put it best when he said the best thing we can hope for now is that we never hear the names of these fellas again. They just get on, do the job, and we don't even have to talk about them again. Would you agree on that?
Yeah, but I think that comes with the baggage that they previously have had in that position. Like Rodger suggested there, those other clubs, obviously Brighton immediately comes to mind. You want to know that they're quite fantastic at what they do, really. Yeah, okay, you want it on the back burner. You don't want them to come to fruition in terms of, you would think that if they're heard, it would be due to something going wrong with Everton. With these other individuals at other clubs, it sounds like there's some sort of genius in the background that is able to do various things to the club that you won't see until, on the front line, as it were. And that, yeah, I think in general, though, that's exactly right. I mean, you don't want fans moaning at them, which means we wouldn't be moaning at them if we didn't know who they are, would we? So, that's what my feeling is towards them. What Rodger said there so eloquently about who we have coming in, and maybe not so much the names, and we don't really know fully what their roles are going to be. When you lock them in a boardroom and see how they talk to each other and things like that. Obviously, we're not going to be privy to it, but the structure in which they're setting up here, I'm a fan of. Like Rodger suggested there. September to wait for a couple of them's a bit of a ball ache, isn't it? Let's face that. When they could be a big part of what ends up going on in the January transfer window. So that's a bit crap. But in the meantime, these things need to be started to put in place. Look, we started the show by talking about getting Kenny Tete, and the window doesn't officially open until next Wednesday. That's fine, but I think we've echoed this a couple of times that things need to be in place now. And when we're getting these announcements of new individuals coming in, they need to have started speaking and communicating to everybody at the club already to know what they're going to do. Like when everybody starts their first day at work in a new job, you go in and you ask what you needed to do. You have that nervous first day. Let's hope they don't need that because they're experiencing what they've done. And they go in, look at each other and say, right, I've identified this player. Get the blackboard out or the whiteboard or whatever it is these days and start talking about what we need to go forward. We don't want people arsing around here. We need it to start, hitting the ground running. And that's something we haven't done for a long time. So it goes back to that old adage I've been talking about for quite some time, is do the opposite of what we've been doing and we should be fine.
Yeah, I think my first day at work in a new job is always like find out the sky potential straight away. To see where you can sit off and at what times. But anyway, that's just me. That's why I don't change jobs too often. Right, just on these new appointments then. Are Everton becoming an attractive proposition, do you think? Because like I said, we've taken these fellas from similar roles at, arguably bigger and better clubs than us, or better run clubs than we have been. And this points in the direction that, do you know what? It looks like we could be some serious operators now.
I think you can make a case there. I'm not sure taking people from Man United. I think people are just desperate.
Fair point.
But we're building our own team now, and that's good. And if we start with a degree of humility, rather than thinking we're going to instantly become competitors of the top four, then fine. Let's build a team for the long term that can work together, that have got good experience, that have built up that experience at good organisations, City and others. Why shouldn't we be attractive? We're not going to be attractive to the top tier players yet because we can't offer them the football, we can't offer them the wages. But it's a good starting point. Of course, it's a good starting point. I suppose my reservation would be, David Moyes is getting on in years. And the only benefit of a director of football model, if you do it properly, which we obviously never did, but is that you're signing players with some element of continuity. And so if you change manager, a la Brighton, a la Brentford, that there's no change. Now, if Moyes is going to have the casting vote on players, then okay. But if you then get if Moyes departs in 18 months' time, 2 years, or whenever, and you get a different manager with a different vision, that you've then got to refresh the whole pot of players again because they've got a different style, rather than getting a coach in that fits the style of play that's been established through the academy, etc., etc. So I'd like to hope that this. I presume that is through. Who's that? Who's in charge of that then? Is that
Kinnear, would it? Or
well, Kinnear's not in charge of footballing styles, surely. I mean,
no. So I thought you meant.
You never know.
I thought you meant overall appointments and stuff like that. I guess Nick Cox, technical director.
I guess it's him, and then the scouting and recruitment chap, James Smith, finds players that fits the style that Nick Cox has agreed with Moyes that we're going to play. So that's just I suppose a note to bear in the back of your minds that if it weren't to go well, TFG hire and fire, and if we weren't to get off to the best of starts, then and Moyes is relieved of his duties in November, and somebody comes in and wants a different set of players. Let's hope we're not in that scenario. But we need continuity. We need to be developing a footballing plan and a strategy, and maybe that is also part of Chris Howarth's role. That means the academy develops players who are oven ready for the first team, or oven ready to be sold into the other markets. So it's positive. Of course, it's positive. We all want to be positive, but as usual, as Evertonians, apart from those of us on Blue Monday, we tend to get carried away too quickly and think that, look at it, we've done it now. We're back where we belong, at the top table.
Yeah, just that point on Moyes. I do hope TFG, I've done a little bit of background checking on Moyes because there is a very good chance that we could get off to a crap start. I hope they are fully aware of that and don't panic if we do. So, right, I'll come back to you on this then. So David Murphy left a comment on Mailbag saying, do you think this talent spotting / data analysis palaver like that is taking away Moyes' ability to look at a player and sign them on the look of them? I can see both sides of this. You do need the data analysis side of it because everyone does it and it seems to work. But it sort of goes against that thing that we've all got where a player's underlying numbers can look good, and you watch them on the pitch and you think, they're a bit shit. Then I don't get what I'm seeing with those numbers. Do you think there's something in that? Do you think it'll take away from us? Obviously, he's going to be in charge of this transfer window because those other guys are yet to come in. What do you make of that?
I think it's a very good question, and I'm in favour of intelligent eyes backed up by data.
Yeah,
I think they've got to look good. If they've got shit numbers, I mean, some of the numbers are quite transparent. If your goal scoring record shit, then you're not going to, know. But the other numbers, the other details that they look at, lung bursting runs and interceptions and success. There's so much data around that you can almost make any player look good according to one or two of the 50 metrics you've got. And it's more than just does he fancy them? It's whether will they fit into his style of play? I think if you want a ball playing centre back, that's fine. But if you don't want a ball playing centre back, it doesn't matter how good his numbers are. You don't want a ball playing centre back. It's like Pep with his goalkeepers. They've got to be good with their feet. If you don't care whether they're good with their feet or not, you want people who are going to be good at catching crosses and good shot stoppers. That's okay. And if you want wingers who are going to get to the byline and beat a man, that's what you're looking for. You're looking for specific skills backed up by. I mean, fitness is really important, right? The number of sprints that you do, the amount of backtracking you do, especially as a midfielder now to cover your fullbacks. And if you want overlapping fullbacks, then sprints are important. So it is going to. I can see a conflict, but hopefully it will lead to us still making sensible purchases that tick enough boxes for both people on the data side, and that Moyes goes, I like the cut of their jib, if you will.
Yeah, that's a good point, Dave. Do you think that's how it could work? Obviously, David Moyes will want to say how good the player is, but it could be that you get presented with some players with really good numbers, and he's got to then look at them and think, will he fit the culture I'm trying to sort of mould at the club? Because as we know, that's a huge thing for him, isn't it?
Well, it's like the second part of when people are referring to him as a dinosaur, isn't it? Because I think that goes along with what you need to do in terms of recruitment with players now, and we'll see that first up, and we will see that front and centre when everybody else has not sort of found their roles, and everybody knows what direction they're all going in, and what's on their agenda when they check their emails when they come in the next day at work. I feel as if you look at his time at West Ham, I'm not entirely sure if this was a similar model that they had there with recruitment. But listen, it's who we have to. It's what we have to deal with, and I say that without trying to sound like I'm criticising Moyes, because let's face it, go back 15 years, he had a bit of a masterstroke, didn't he, at getting players in relatively cheap deals who turned out to be really good for us. I don't have to go through the list of names for everybody to know that. Now it is different. Like Rodger said there, with the list of data you can get, I think you can make a cause for each single figure being positive or negative. Because if you find out something that you think, well, he's top class at that, well, do Everton play like that? No. Are Everton going to change their force of how they play and the tactics in which he's going to implement into games? No, because you're not going to do it for one player. So if you've got that perspective on certain things that you want a club to go and buy, you'll think, well, that has a knock-on effect to everybody else that's in the squad. They're going to have to play different to occupy what they're coming in to do. So it's a fine line, isn't it? It's a difficult process that he's got to deal with. I mean, would you think there's a scenario here where he's still speaking to these guys? I mean, I'm presuming that they're allowed to talk, they're not on garden leave, and you can't speak to them, kind of thing. Are they? He's still able to have a discussion with people who aren't quite yet employed by the club. Is that right?
I think particularly James Smith is actually on gardening leave now. That can mean whatever you want it to mean, really. I'm not sure there's going to be FBI agents who are, tracking his cell phone and making sure he doesn't speak to Moyes. I think it's more perhaps he'll have a list of players that they might have been interested in, and or secret gems from Paraguay that City have unearthed that he's not allowed to bring to Everton. It's a peculiar one. I don't really see why we couldn't have found a way around it, but nevertheless, they'll be able to talk, but probably not overly effectively.
Yeah, I just on garden leave. I worked with a guy once who was on, I think he was on 4 weeks garden leave, and he just came into the office every day with his feet up on the desk and didn't do a thing. Quite a strange thing to do, but there you go.
What's that? The point that Rodger was making there about, he's not going to have the FBI sort of on his phone lines and all that sort of thing. I mean, pretty sure David Moyes can go and meet him in a park on the sly, and the one of them's reading the newspaper with a hat on, and he just like whispers to him when he's standing behind him feeding the ducks. Look, it's not going to be anything like that, is it? But then I think that's probably detrimental to Moyes, thinking that he needs to have that level of information coming his way. Let's face it, he finished, and it will stick in my mind, and I hope it does. When we were on the final day of the season, he's talking to Gethin Jones about, I hope the owners are watching, and the way he was hinting towards, we need players. He said several times, there's money there to use. I hope they haven't gone up to him and said, well, you can have this certain percentage, but we're holding some of it back until these new lads come in. So you would like to think that there's no gap between both Moyes and everybody else who's going to be in line. And I hope it isn't an easy excuse for us to say, well, we haven't signed this player in this particular role, because I still think, and to throw it into a Dave Downey negative as usual, I think that you're going to start a new campaign where we're not completely ready squad wise, because I think there's that much work to do. I think it was Rodger, you sent it in our WhatsApp group, didn't you? The amount of gaps you need to fill with the players that we have now, it's more than substantial. I think to say substantial is a bit of a, it's not quite. It's a lot more than that we need to go and do. And look, let's face it. What are we? 8 weeks until the season starts. It's not a lot of time when you've got to go negotiate with players and fight into a platform that many others are going to go and approach ones that we are as well. Everton are going to become a club where you see us looking interested as a player. You're going to see the likes of Paddy and his colleagues and sort of rivals talking about players and exclusives that Everton are interested in a particular player. Or the football clubs read that, or the scouts read that, and they're able to go and approach that sort of player themselves because somebody else has done the due diligence. And that can be with play. I mean, we've seen it many times with us, haven't we? Where players sort of get nicked when we've had them primed and ready to sign a contract. Everton are going to be that side, I think. So you need to be a little bit more savvy with this, and with Moyes here, I think look the effect he's going to have with bringing in new players. When I was talking to Sammy about Tete, for instance, there is a draw for players to come in, given the club looks like it's a new era, not just particularly in vision where the new stadium is, but also with Moyes, also with players. Alcaraz, for instance, has come in. He's not what you would regard as a typical Everton type signing for many, many years. So, if players are looking at that a little bit deeper, thinking, do you know what, I want a bit of that. I want a bit of working with him. Then you've got that draw for players to come and approach what we're doing. So, yeah, I mean, that's where it excites me from that side of things with Moyes, because he's able to go and pick players, or indeed he's made his career based on going to pick players. He's never had substantial amounts of cash to spend. Now he has. Let's hope he can go and do it in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I don't think it's negative to say we're not going to be ready for the start of the season. I think that's a perfectly rational.
Well, because we always lose the first few games anyway.
Oh yeah, you're right enough. No, I do think that's perfectly rational given the amount of players that need to come in. I don't think the squad is going to be ready. I think it'll be ready in terms of the players Moyes has got. He's got them prepped, fitness ready to go at the start of the season. But I don't think the squad will be complete by any stretch. I think there's going to be players coming in August, probably right up until deadline day, which, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It would be nice to get it all done before the season, but I think that'll be being a little bit too optimistic. I can't see that happening.
Yeah, but you don't want to get to deadline day and we still need to have players.
No, we want. Well, I think to that end as well. I'll bring you on this, Rog. I mean, we had a good end to last season. If we make the addition of Tete, that instantly makes us better than we were last season. Really, we'll obviously bring in some loans to cover in the loans that we've not got. I think if we went with this, it's all on the forward line, isn't it? I think if we keep going, we've got that forward line. I think a couple of additions in key positions like right back where we did struggle. I think we'd be in a good position to get off to a decent start.
Yeah, the numbers are low. Let's not forget, if we're going to loan Chimiti out to Stoke and we're not going to play Seamus, we're not going to play Patterson, then I think the squad is 13. That's not, 4 keepers on the bench. We need players. Come on, we do. I know we did all right last season, and the question is, what's the ambition for this season? Where do we want to get to? And you can't just surrender 9, 12, 15 points because you're not ready and we can't solve everything in one window. We need a squad. We need a squad of 20 players at least by the time the season kicks off, and that means we need another 5 or 6 signings or loanees by then, and then we can top up and maybe we'll take a punt on someone late in the window or other deals that take a little bit longer because you're in competition with other clubs. But yeah, we do need to get a wriggle on. I'm also not sure, is the window, I think the window's open again now, isn't it, Dave? You said it's not open till 1st of July. I think it's open again.
Seems to be it seems to be something that if you ask different people, they'll say different answers. Because apparently there was a small window where you could get a player in for like a week or 2 when the contracts ended in particular. Like for instance, Alexander Arnold there, he was able to go to Real Madrid in time of them playing in this ridiculous tournament. Now if you like, Tete would not come to us because his contract doesn't end until the end of June. So it's a bit sort of up in the air sort of thing, isn't it?
So the window is open apparently June 16th. So it's quite convoluted, as you might expect. The 2025 English football summer transfer window runs from 1st of June to 10th of June due to an exceptional registration period mandated by FIFA for the Club World Cup. That's what you were talking about, Dave. So you could sign players in those first 10 days.
What? Dare we say that the bigger clubs in the world are being able to get a little bit of leeway that nobody else is able to get?
I mean, who'd have thought that would ever happen?
Yeah.
And then 16th of June to September 1st. Yeah, so it is open, but I think, as you say, the sticking points, particularly with free transfers, is that their contract won't end until June 30th. So they can't.
When would Everton be back into training? It'd be mid-July, would it? When they go to
no, because the thingy pre-season kicks off mid-July, doesn't it? So it's going to be, I think it's probably the 1st of July, isn't it? It'll be, I think they'll have a couple of weeks off now, and then they'll get back to pre-season training. Because this is where they all turn up in the hideous rig-outs, isn't it?
Hideous rig-outs and hideous amount of fitness.
Yeah, with the little wash bags and stuff. Right, before we finish then, let's have a little look ahead to next season. So the fixtures are out. I know you've got to play everyone twice, and it doesn't matter. Everyone's got to play each other the same amount of times. I do think there's something in when you play teams. It's obvious teams hit peaks and troughs throughout the season, and there is an element of luck as to when you get to play a team. Leeds opening day away, for me, possibly the worst time to play Leeds because they're going to be bouncing, haven't been promoted. First game back in the Premier League for a couple of seasons. I think someone on Twitter said it's got 2-2 written all over it, and I find it hard to disagree with that. But Dave, will come to you first. What do you think of that opening game? So we've got Leeds away, Brighton home, Wolves away, and that's August. So let's do the 3 in August before we've signed any players. What do you think of that opening?
Leeds away is an absolute stinker to start with. Leeds are a horrible side in regards to playing them, especially when the tails are going to be up from getting promoted. That I'd take a draw right now if you offered it to me, because I think that's going to be a tough one there. And you've mentioned Moyes. Maybe we are going a little bit too far in terms of saying we always start crap under Moyes. It needs to change, doesn't it, at some point? And then Brighton at home, little bit different now, aren't they? The way in which Hazel's doing a really good job there, but that's the first one at Bramley Moor. You'd like to think we probably go and kick someone's ass straight away, and then that gets you off to the run. Wolves are going to be the side I think that can really tail off this coming season. I think losing Cunha there is a massive blow. I don't know who they'll go and get. I don't look at Wolves too deeply. I think Wolves away will do something there. So I'm going to go for an extremely mediocre, with the mediocrity that I'm looking at this season with. I reckon we'll get 4 points from those opening 3.
4. Okay, fair enough. Rog, where are you with this?
7. 2 away wins. 2 away wins and a draw at home.
I like that. That is a good bit of optimism. Sorry, Dave, go ahead.
Our first Premier League game at the new stadium, be happy with a draw. No, I just think Brighton are better than us. So
that's fair point. Les was delighted there, though.
The weird thing with Brighton is we've got their number away. We just can't seem to beat them at home. It's very, very weird. What do you think about Leeds opening day, Rog? I like Dave said, I think that is an absolute stinker of a game to get, but you think we can go there and win?
I think it would have been Saturday 3 o'clock or even Saturday 12:30. I think Monday night that worries me less. I don't know why.
That's a shout.
I don't know why. But I mean, Leeds aren't actually that good. Let's be clear. They didn't run away with the championship. Them and Burnley, and they've still got the same kind of squad that went down. Really. Willie Nontel will be up to his old tricks. I see he got sent off for the Italian under-21 team in midweek. And we've got David Moyes. We've got David Moyes as a manager. We'll be set up. We've got a good defence. We've got England's number 1, and I can see a 1-0 win.
I think I'm just scarred from Norwich away all those years ago with Ricky Van Wolfswinkel scoring his one and only goal, I think, for Norwich. I just think that opening day gives... That was a Saturday, to be fair, though. That opening day just does give that promoted team a little bit extra because everyone's going to be bouncing going into the ground. I'm not going to run through the whole season, but let's just quickly look at September because that's very interesting. So Villa at home, Big Red away, and West Ham at home. That's a good month. I'm looking forward to that. Dave, are you?
I don't know about you guys, but I'm starting, as I'm getting older, trying not to look at fixtures because I'll get to a certain point in the day where I'm thinking, I can't see us winning any of these games. I can't see us winning any of these games at all. Look, I think Villa are going to be at a bit of a crossroads, I think, now, because they missed out on the Champions League, which was a massive blow, wasn't it, considering what they did all season long. And Emery was adored by everybody in the footballing world. Be interesting to see how they're able to bounce back from that. Big Red, no. And what would you say they were? West Ham at home. We'll do them. So again, I think I'm going to go for a conservative 4 points, and I would I don't know. I maybe should boost that to 6 because 2 out of the 3 are at home. I'm just really anxious, and it's up in the air how I feel towards Bramley Moor at the start.
Yeah,
because
you've got to
think about. Well, didn't Southampton have to get like an exorcist in or something like that?
Yeah,
to try and sort them out after losing the first 50 games or something like that. And Arsenal struggled with all that as well, didn't he? Arsenal had a bit of a stinker to start it. Go on. Sorry.
No, I just said we should have had an exorcist in at Goodison years ago.
Yeah, I honestly don't think you can underestimate the impact going to a new ground has. I say this all the time, but it does. Teams do dip
That Roma game's important, Les. That Roma game's important.
It is actually to try and sort of get our feet under the carpet. I think 8 points from the first 8 days. That's a very solid Sean Dyche Everton start.
I just hope we're not playing like that, to be honest with you.
Rog, what do you reckon on the Toffees September there?
7 points. Another 7 points. 2 home wins and a draw at the Devil's Den. Yeah.
So you're going 14 off the first 6. Is that
14
right?
from 24. Oh, 6, isn't it? Yeah, sorry, 14 from 18.
Under first 6. Yeah.
That's comfortable top 4 if we can do that.
Isn't it? Just for the punters out there, I made a note of some odds, right, in terms of our season. We're 500 to 1 to win the league. I probably won't be investing in that. We are 28 to 1 to finish in the top 4. We are 10 to 1 to finish in the top 6. Okay. Oh. We are 7 to 1 to be relegated. And we are 2 to 1 to finish in the top half. There you go.
I'll put my house on Everton to finish in the top half.
Those odds scream Everton are a mid-table club, doesn't it?
We're 13th. When you look at the odds, we're 13th basically. We're just above, below Fulham and above West Ham is basically the order that we finish in. Brentford are well below us. People expect Brentford to struggle and Wolves to struggle and the promoted teams to struggle. We're 33 to 1 to win the FA Cup. We're that every fucking season. So,
it's got to happen sometime. It's got to happen sometime.
We'll quickly do like finishing predictions then. So, Rodger, you sent us an article where Rory Jennings, if anyone doesn't know who he is, he's the very, very Tory-looking Chelsea fan who's on the overlap, I think. And he talks shite most of the time. Probably is this season as well, because he said Everton will finish 7th. I'll go one last. We're going to finish 8th. I say it every year. We're finishing 8th this year. Rog, where do you got us?
11th.
11th. Fine. It's all right. It's progress. Dave?
I'm slightly open. I'm feeling much more confident because we got Kenny Tete now. I'm up in my. I think I said initially 13th. I'm gonna go 12th.
That's it. Shoot for the stars, and you might hit the back gate. That's
one of our own.
Right, gents, we will leave it there for this week. Let us know, by the way, if you're listening or watching. Let us know what you think of those opening 6 games. I'm really looking forward to it. I can't wait now. And let us know where you think we'll finish next season. We'll obviously do our annual pre-season prediction show just before the season kicks off. But yeah, we'll start getting that ball rolling now. Thanks as ever to Dave and Rodger. That has been it for this week's Blue Monday. All the usual stuff coming up this week. So keep it Blue Room, and we'll catch you soon. Up the Toffees.